Hi, this is Jithin and welcome back to High Level Techie. Today we are going to see how you can use GoHighLevel API version 2 and use it to book an appointment and to find free slots in your calendar. So let's get started. So the first step in this process is to create a private integration. To find a private integration, you have to go into your sub account settings and click on private integration. If you have already created a private integration, you can see it here. If you don't have, all you have to do is click here, create new integration and give it a name. I'm calling it demo integration. And if you want to give it a description, you can, but it is optional. So now I'm going to click next. And this is where you have to define the scopes for this integration. So when you click here, you can see all the scopes that you can add. But in this case, what we want is to book an appointment to get the free slots. So those scopes will be available under calendar. So we want to view the calendar, we want to edit the calendar, and we also want to view and edit calendar events such as book an appointment. So we select that. And if you're working with group calendars, you can select these as well. So once you have this, you can click to create. So the thing you have to understand is that if you want to edit a contact details using this private integration, that will not be possible because you have not selected the appropriate scope. So if you want to do anything with contacts, you have to go in here and find contacts such as view contacts, edit contacts, and you have to add those scopes in. Now that we are only dealing with the calendar events, we only require whatever scopes that you see on the screen now. Okay, but depending on your requirement, you might want to add more scopes than this. Once all your scopes are selected, click create. Then you would get a private integration key like this. All you have to do now is to copy this key, and do remember that as soon as you click to close this window, you will not be able to access this key anymore. So you have to copy this key in a safe and secure place before closing this window. So now that I have copied this, I can close this window. Then you can see your access token has been created, and you can also find a couple of pointers here to keep your account more secure. Okay, we are not going to get into all those things. We are going to see how you can use this token in your day-to-day actions. But before we go into those details, we are going to see how you can use GoHighLevel API documentation. If you search for GHL API v2, you will find a page like this. Select the link that says stoplight, and you will find API version 2 documentation. And on the left hand side, you will see a lot of folders and endpoints. And in this case, what we are interested in is the calendars. So if you click on calendar folder, another bunch of subfolder will open up. And if you click again on calendars, you can see all the endpoints that are related to calendar. And then you can also see calendar groups. These are the endpoints under calendar groups. And then there is a calendar events. These are the endpoints under calendar events. Okay. So first of all, we can go and check out get free slots. If you want to see if there are any free slots under one particular calendar, this is the endpoint that you would use. When you click on here, you can see this is get free slots. Get is a request type to get data. So if you want to get free slots, what you would do is you send this request to this particular URL. Okay, and you can see here inside this bracket, you need to add the calendar ID of the calendar from which you want the free slots. Some of the variables that you need to specify are here. You can see here which are required field and which are optional fields. Okay, definitely calendar ID is a required field. And if you scroll down, you can see end date is required and start date is also required. So if you want to get the free slots in a calendar, you need to specify the start date and the end date. When you send a request between these two date and time, it would then give you all the free slots. Okay. And if you come further down, you would see headers. And here you can see the header that you need to add. Authorization access token is required. And this is the token that we just got from private integration. This is what we need to use to authorize our request. And then you also need to add the version of this API, which is also required. So now I'm going to show you how you can test it out in this page itself. Okay. So here, if you click here to send API request, you get a warning saying that you did not provide all the required parameters. So now we have to look what are the things that we need. We need to enter a token first. So we have to go back and get our API token, the one we created earlier. We're going to paste that in here, and then calendar ID. You have to go into your sub account to find the calendar ID of a particular calendar. Then you need an end date in Unix time format, and similarly you need a start date in Unix time format. And then of course you need an authorization for header, which would look like this: bearer and your token. So that's a bearer token that we're using. So what you need to do is you type in bearer first and then give a space and paste your access token that you got from private integration. And the version is already updated here. But if you want, you can go and find the version in here. This is the API version that you need to use. And once everything is added, all you have to do is send API request. But I'm pretty sure that this is going to generate an error message because we haven't set the end date, start date, and calendar ID. But let's try. So you can see invalid calendar ID. So you can see it's a 400 bad request. The reason is invalid calendar ID, and it is a bad request. So let's go to our account and find a calendar ID. So I'm gonna go in here, click on calendars, and I'm gonna come back here and paste my calendar ID. And I need to find an epoch time or Unix time. If I go to Unix time, so this is the current Unix time. So I copy that and I come back here and let's add that as the start time. But you can see there is a difference between the one that I just pasted and the one above. So GHL needs the start date time in milliseconds. So we need to add another 3 zeros as well. And now we need an end date. So we are going back here and we are going to say I want between 2 days and convert. So I'll get the date corresponding to 21st December. And I'm going to come here and copy and paste that in, add 3 zeros to it, and let's try again. So you got a trace ID, which is okay. So I'm gonna try convert, copy that, 1, 2, 3. All right. So initially it did not work because I didn't have any slots available. Now I increased the number of dates, the start and end date. There are slots in between those days, and you can see those slots here. On 23rd, I have slots on these times, and on 24th, I have slots on these times, and 25th, these are my slots. Okay. So this is how you can test if everything is working using your API. But once the test is done, you have to implement this somewhere else, such as make.com, Pabbly, or even inside GoHighLevel. So what we are going to do now, we are going to do this in make.com. So let's go into make.com and click to create a new scenario. So we are going to add a new module. Click add a module. So we are going to select HTTP. In here, what we are going to do is we are going to make an HTTPS request. Okay. You select that, and this is where you have to add the URL. So first of all, we need to get the URL. So we go back to our API documentation, and this is the URL. You have to copy this, copy that, and come back and add the URL. Now, instead of calendar ID, we actually need the calendar ID. so which we have already found out. So we are going to paste that calendar ID in here. So now our URL is ready. And next one is the method. We have get, post, put, patch, delete. These are the most commonly used methods. And in this case, we are going to get data from a calendar. So we are using get method. You can also verify it here. We are using get method. So we select get, and next one is adding headers. So first header would be, if you go back to documentation and look at headers, you can see authorization is the first header, and we need to add the bearer token. Okay, so let's copy authorization, go back, add authorization, make sure that there are no space or anything else. And next would be the bearer token. To add a bearer token, first thing you need to do is type in bearer, and then you paste your token which you got from private integration. So I'm gonna add that very soon. So let's say 1 2 3 4 5 is my bearer token. I will add that later. And now what else we need? We have the headers ready, and we also need this API version. So copy this string called version, and let's go in here, add one more item on the header, which is going to be version, and go back and copy the version of the API. So that's added. So our header is done. Now what we need is a query string. Okay. So if you go to the query string, what we need is start date and end date. So let's copy that. So let's go add a parameter, add start date without the star. And let's copy the start date as well. So we have start date. Now we want the end date. Copy end date. Copy the Unix timestamp as well. So this is pretty much it. We are not sending any body type, so click OK. And now if we run this module, we have error. Yes, we have error because our bearer token is wrong. Okay, so now we have everything we need. We have the URL with the calendar ID. We are doing a get method, and we have our authorization with bearer token and the token that we received from private integration. We have also added the version, and the version is this. And then we have added our start date in epoch time or Unix time, and we also have our end date in Unix time. Okay, so everything that we need is here. All we need is now is to click OK, and we can run this module only. So when I click run this module, it would run, and you can see the output is here, and these are the slots that are available in this calendar. So now we can use this value on any modules that are down the line and customize our workflows. So this is how you can use GoHighLevel API version 2 inside Make to get free slots in a particular calendar. So getting free slots is rather simple. So now let's go and see how you can book an appointment using GoHighLevel API version 2. Okay, so in the same left hand side, you go scroll down all the way until you find create appointment. Click on that, and you would see it is a create appointment, and this is, instead of get request, this is a post request, because we are creating something, we are posting something. So we are posting this appointment booking to this particular URL, and we need headers. Of course, we need to authorize it. We need to set the version of the API, and after that, we need to specify calendar ID, which is a required field, and then location ID, which is also required, and the contact ID, and the start time of the appointment. So these four things are required field. So without these four values, we cannot book an appointment. Okay. And calendar ID, we can get it from the calendar that we want to book this appointment to. Location ID would be the ID of the sub account that we want this appointment inside. And the contact ID would be the contact who we are booking this appointment for. And the start time will be the start time of this appointment. And then there are other optional fields as well, such as the title. So if you want to give the appointment a title, you can use this field to do so. You can set the location type, appointment status, assigned user address, and all other things which you want to use can be found here. We will be focusing only on these main four variables that are required to book an appointment. And on the right hand side, you can see a sample request. So this is what we are going to create as well. Okay, so I'm going to show you this inside Pabbly Connect. If you want to do this in Make, the steps are pretty much same that you saw earlier. So that's why we are going to do something different in Pabbly Connect. Pabbly Connect is one of my favorite tools because I get like 10,000 tasks every month for free, and it is pretty cool. So that's why I prefer Pabbly Connect over Zapier. But when it comes to Make and Pabbly Connect, maybe I like Make a little bit more because how it looks and the visual representation of workflows. But for now, I'm just going to show you in Pabbly Connect. I'm going to select a new flow, demo flow 2, and click create. So here again, what we are going to do is we are going to select an action step. In this action step, what we want to do is to send an API call. So that's why we are selecting API by Pabbly. Then you select execute API request and click connect. Now we can select what type of request we want to send. So we have get method, post method, put, patch, delete, and custom request. So you can select post and you would find all these options. But the way I like to use it is to select custom request, and then from custom request, I select post request. The difference is that in here, I can actually enter raw data, but if you go to post request, you have to enter data in a format, which I don't really like. Sometimes it doesn't work as well. So I usually select custom request, and then here I select the method. In here, I'm selecting post. Under custom request, I've selected post request, and the endpoint URL, we go back to our API docs, copy that, and come back, add your endpoint URL. So you can see here in this URL, we don't need to add a calendar ID. We will add the calendar ID inside the raw body of this request. Okay. The payload type is going to be JSON. There is nothing to change in here. We are not going to select authentication in here, but we are going to add an authentication under header. So the first step is authorization. So you type in authorization, and this is where you add your bearer token. So whatever is your bearer token, you add that in here after the keyword bearer space. And then we need to add one more header. So which is going to be the API version. So we type in version and go back to get the version. So this is the version. Come back, paste that in here. So we have added two of the required header elements in here. Now what we need is the body type. So on your right hand side, you can see this is the body type. You can see the whole items, which you can see here. All of them are added in here. So it's easy to copy the whole thing and paste it inside your request. So we go here, and inside data, we are going to paste the whole thing in here. But you know that we don't really need all these things unless you really want to include those. But for now, we don't need, we only need the first 4 required fields. Now this is in JSON format. If you add an extra comma, or if you don't add an extra comma, things can break. So if you are not sure, you can copy the whole thing and go to something called JSON formatter and select the first result, and you then copy and paste your JSON. You can see I have an error, and if you look at the right hand side, you can see the error is on line 5. So when you go and check, there is an extra comma in line 5, you remove that and validate this. If it doesn't get validated, all you can do is copy the whole thing again and paste that back in and wait for a second. So you can see there are some more errors, and I think that is coming from a formatting error. Okay, so sometimes what Pabbly do is that it brings in some of the HTML elements, and it can add some unwanted elements. So the way to look at it is, so first let's try to save this, and then if you go to one of the steps and come back in, if you see any of the HTML elements, which means that, yeah, you can see there are some unwanted elements in here. So that's a stupid bug in Pabbly. Sometimes it can happen, but otherwise it's pretty good. So if you're copying and pasting from other sources, it usually can happen. So in that case, just need to be careful. So I tried to run this, but then I got invalid JWT, which means that my token is wrong, which you can see my bearer token is not correct. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna delete this bearer token, so it's not going to be useful for anyone. So now let's click and save application process, but there's an error. Let's go and see if it's because of, yes, it is because of some of the values that copied and pasted in here. Let's do that one more time. Save and request. Token does not have access to this location, which means that we have to update our location ID. We just use the sample data we got. So now we can update our location ID and calendar ID. So this means that the bearer token is working and everything is working, and the errors are in here. The first error is location is not accessible, which is understandable because we are using a dummy location value. And once the location is correct, next error would be the calendar ID is wrong because it's a sample calendar ID. Once these two becomes correct, there won't be any contact with this ID. So we will have to update that as well. And now the last thing would be the start time, which is in 2021, and we cannot book an appointment in the past. So that would be the next error. So let's update this and run this again. Just give me a minute. And there you go. So you can see the status of this appointment is booked and appointment status is confirmed. So this is how you can use GoHighLevel's API version 2 to book appointments. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. What you need is an ability to send an API request. So you can do that with Pabbly, Make, Zapier, or whichever tool you're using. All you have to do is to send a post request. We are sending a post request to this API endpoint URL, which you can get from your API documentation. You need to search for the right endpoint. In this case, it is going to be create appointment endpoint. Then from there, you can understand that you have to do a post request to this particular URL with the header, with an authorization, and with API version, which is what we did here. We added the header for authorization, and you add your bearer token, which you get from private integration. And then you add the version, which the version you can get from here. You copy and paste that version as exactly as it is. Once you've done that, you need to set the raw body of this request. To get the raw body, go to the right hand side of the screen, and then you can copy this whole body, all body, and paste it in your request. But the main thing that we need is calendar ID, location ID, contact ID, and start time. So that's the only thing that we have in here. And then we have to select the right calendar ID from your calendar, and right location ID from your sub account, and the right contact from any of the automation that is happening inside your Pabbly workflow or Make workflow, and map that contact ID correctly into the request. And then you have to map the start time in the correct format. Once you have that, your request is pretty much ready. And then when you click save and test request, it is going to create an appointment. If the response is successful, you will see something like this: appointment status is confirmed and status is booked. So this is how you can use GoHighLevel API version 2. All you have to do is to create a private integration by going into your sub account, clicking on private integration, and then create a new integration. Or if you already have an integration, you can edit that. Inside the integration, the main thing is the scopes. You have to select the right scopes. Once you have the scopes correct, you can update it, and that's pretty much it. Once you update the scopes, you can copy the access token in here, and once you have the access token, you can connect that to any of the third-party platforms. Okay, so that's how you connect GoHighLevel API version 2 and use that to book an appointment or to find calendar slots and such. Hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Bye.